4-year-old Aria Gonzalez wandered away from her family's camping site in the Colorado Rockies and disappeared into 20,000 acres of wilderness where temperatures dropped below freezing each night. Search and rescue teams feared the worst as hours turned to days with no sign of the little girl. But Aria wasn't alone in those mountains. A stray Border Collie mix, thin and scarred from life in the wild, had found her on the first day and appointed himself her protector. For 3 days and 2 nights, this nameless dog shared his body heat, led her to water, brought her food, and kept predators away while teaching a lost child how to survive in one of nature's most unforgiving environments. Welcome to Saved by Tales. Before we dive into this incredible story of an unlikely guardian angel who emerged from the wilderness to protect an innocent child, tell me in the comments, have you ever witnessed an animal's protective instincts towards someone they'd never met before? And if you believe these amazing stories of animals becoming instant protectors deserve to be shared, hit that subscribe button and join our community celebrating the 4-legged heroes who choose to save lives simply because it's the right thing to do. The Gonzalez family had been looking forward to their camping trip to Rocky Mountain National Park for months. Miguel and Carmen had planned the expedition as a way to disconnect from technology and create lasting memories with their 3 children, 8-year-old Diego, 6-year-old Sofia, and 4-year-old Aria. Aria's never been camping before, Carmen told the park ranger at the visitor center as they registered for their backcountry permit. We wanted to start with something not too challenging, but still give the kids a real mountain experience. The family had chosen a campsite near Bear Lake, a popular area with well-marked trails and established camping facilities. The location was considered safe for families with young children, offering beautiful scenery without the extreme isolation of deeper wilderness areas. Aria was excited about everything: the tent, the campfire, the possibility of seeing wildlife, and especially the freedom to explore. She was an adventurous child who loved being outdoors, though her curiosity sometimes got her into trouble at home. "She's our little explorer," Miguel explained to other campers they met. "We have to watch her constantly because she'll wander off to investigate anything that catches her attention." On their second day, the family planned a short hike to Alberta Falls, a gentle trail that was perfect for children. They packed lunches, filled water bottles, and started early to avoid afternoon thunderstorms that were common in the mountains. The trail to Alberta Falls was busy with other families and hikers, creating a festive atmosphere that the children loved. Diego and Sofia stayed close to their parents, but Aria kept stopping to examine flowers, rocks, and insects along the path. "Stay where we can see you," Carmen called repeatedly, as Aria drifted toward the edges of the trail to investigate interesting discoveries. About halfway to the falls, the family stopped for lunch at a scenic overlook. While Miguel and Carmen unpacked food, and Diego and Sofia explored the immediate area, Aria spotted a butterfly with unusual markings fluttering into the trees beyond the established trail. "Pretty butterfly," Aria announced, following the insect into the dense forest without anyone noticing her departure. The butterfly led Aria deeper into the woods, away from the trail and the sounds of other hikers. When she finally lost sight of it, Aria found herself surrounded by trees with no idea which direction led back to her family. "Mama?" Aria called, but her small voice was swallowed by the vast wilderness. It was 20 minutes before the Gonzalez family realized Aria was missing. Their casual calls quickly turned to frantic shouts, then desperate searches through the immediate area. Park rangers responded within an hour of the family's 911 call, launching an immediate search and rescue operation. The area where Aria had disappeared encompassed thousands of acres of dense forest, steep terrain, and dangerous wildlife habitat. "Time is critical in cases involving young children," Search and Rescue Coordinator Janet Walsh explained to the desperate parents. 4-year-olds can cover surprising distances, but they're also vulnerable to hypothermia, dehydration, and wildlife encounters. The temperature in the mountains dropped to near freezing each night, and Aria was wearing only light hiking clothes suitable for daytime temperatures. She had no food, no water, and no survival equipment. Search teams spread out across the wilderness, using helicopters, tracking dogs, and volunteers from local hiking groups. They followed every possible route that a small child might take, checking ravines, caves, and water sources where Aria might seek shelter. But the Colorado Rockies are vast and unforgiving. With each passing hour, the likelihood of finding Aria alive decreased significantly. What the search teams didn't know was that Aria had found help from an unexpected source. Deep in the wilderness, a stray Border Collie mix had been living alone for over a year, surviving on whatever food he could find and sheltering in caves and dense brush. The dog was thin, scarred, and wary of humans after abandonment or escape from his previous life. He'd learned to hunt small game, find water sources, and avoid the predators that made the mountains dangerous for vulnerable creatures. On Aria's first day lost, the dog detected her presence through scent and sound. Following his nose to investigate, he found a small child sitting beneath a large pine tree, crying and calling for her mama. The dog's first instinct was to retreat. His experience with humans hadn't been positive, but something about Aria's vulnerability and distress triggered protective instincts that overrode his fear of people. Instead of running away, the dog approached slowly, offering gentle sniffs and eventually allowing Aria to pet his matted fur. When she wrapped her small arms around him, he seemed to understand that this lost child needed him. As night fell on Aria's first day missing, temperatures dropped dramatically. The stray dog guided her to a natural shelter formed by fallen logs and overhanging rocks, using his body to provide warmth throughout the long, cold night. "Doggy warm," Aria murmured, snuggling against the dog's thick coat as he carefully positioned himself to share maximum body heat. The next morning, the dog led Aria to a small stream where she could drink fresh water. When she expressed hunger, he disappeared for several hours, returning with a fish he'd caught and left for her to find. Throughout the day, the dog taught Aria essential survival skills through example and gentle guidance. He showed her which berries were safe to eat, how to find shelter from wind and rain, and how to stay warm by gathering pine needles and leaves. Most importantly, the dog kept Aria calm and hopeful. When she cried for her parents, he would nuzzle her gently and stay close until her tears stopped. When she became frightened by strange noises, he would position himself protectively between her and potential threats. On the second night, Aria and her guardian faced serious danger when a mountain lion caught their scent and began stalking them. The big cat was drawn by the unusual combination of human and dog scents, curious about the easy prey that seemed to be wandering through its territory. The stray dog's response was immediate and brave. He positioned himself between Aria and the approaching predator, hackles raised, teeth bared, sending clear signals that the child was under his protection. The mountain lions circled their shelter, testing the dog's resolve, but the Border Collie mix held his ground with fierce determination. His protective stance and aggressive warnings eventually convinced the predator to seek easier prey elsewhere. Aria slept through most of the encounter, trusting completely in her guardian's protection. The dog remained alert throughout the night, scanning for threats and ready to defend his small charge against any danger. By the third day, the search for Aria had expanded to include teams from multiple counties and volunteer groups from across Colorado. Helicopters with thermal imaging equipment scanned the wilderness while ground teams followed every possible trail and hiding place. "We're not giving up," Miguel told reporters who had gathered to cover the story. "Aria is strong and smart. We believe she's still out there, and we're going to find her." Carmen remained at the search command post, coordinating with teams and providing details about Aria's personality and likely behavior patterns. "She's not afraid of animals," Carmen told searchers. "If she encountered a friendly dog or other wildlife, she might follow them instead of staying in one place." The search dogs had picked up Aria's scent in several locations, but the trail seemed to wander in random directions that suggested she was moving continuously rather than staying hidden in one shelter. On the afternoon of the third day, a helicopter pilot spotted movement in a clearing about 6 miles from where Aria had disappeared. Through binoculars, he could see a small figure and what appeared to be a large dog moving together across an open meadow. "I have eyes on what looks like a child and a dog," the pilot radioed to ground teams. "They're moving together, and the child appears to be walking normally." Ground teams immediately converged on the location, while the helicopter guided them toward the meadow. As they approached, they could see Aria more clearly, dirty and tired, but apparently uninjured and walking alongside a scruffy Border Collie mix. When the first searcher called Aria's name, she looked up with confusion and excitement. "I'm here," she called back. "Me and Doggy are here." The stray dog initially backed away as the humans approached, but Aria's obvious happiness at seeing the searchers seemed to reassure him that these people were safe. The reunion between Aria and her parents was emotional and joyful, but the little girl insisted that her guardian Doggy be included in every hug and celebration. The dog, still wary of adults, stayed close to Aria, as if reluctant to end his protective mission. "Doggy took care of me," Aria explained to her amazed parents. "He showed me water and berries and kept me warm at night. He's my best friend." Paramedics were astonished by Aria's condition. Despite 3 days in the wilderness, she was remarkably healthy, slightly dehydrated and hungry, but with no serious injuries or signs of hypothermia. "It's almost miraculous," said EMT Robert Chen. 4-year-olds typically can't survive more than 24 hours in these conditions. Something or someone kept this child alive and healthy. That someone was obviously the stray dog, who had sacrificed his own food and comfort to keep Aria safe. The dog was thin and exhausted from his 3-day protection mission, but his tail wagged weakly when Aria petted him. Veterinarian Dr. Lisa Rodriguez examined the stray dog and determined that he was approximately 4 years old, had been living in the wild for at least a year, and showed signs of previous abuse or neglect. "This dog has been through significant trauma," Dr. Rodriguez explained to the Gonzalez family. "He's malnourished, has old injuries that never healed properly, and is clearly afraid of humans." But his protective instincts toward Aria overrode all of that fear. The dog had no collar, no microchip, and no identification, Local shelters had no missing dog reports that matched his description, suggesting he'd been abandoned or had escaped from an abusive situation long ago. He chose to protect Aria, even though helping humans had probably brought him nothing but pain in the past. Dr. Rodriguez continued, "That level of forgiveness and compassion is extraordinary." Without hesitation, the Gonzalez family decided to adopt Aria's guardian angel. They couldn't imagine separating the child from the dog who had literally saved her life, and Aria made it clear that she wouldn't accept any other arrangement. "Guardian stays with me," Aria announced firmly when the subject was discussed. "He's my doggy now." The adoption process was complicated by the dog's fearful behavior around adults, but his trust in Aria helped bridge the gap. As long as Aria was present, the dog would tolerate handling by veterinarians and gradually accept food and care from her parents. Miguel and Carmen named him Guardian in honor of his protective mission, though Aria simply called him my doggy and treated him like the hero he was. Guardian's adjustment to domestic life was gradual and required patience from the entire family. The dog had been wild for so long that house training, regular feeding schedules, and human contact were foreign concepts he had to relearn. But his bond with Aria made the transition possible. The little girl became Guardian's translator, helping him understand that this new life was safe and permanent. When Guardian was nervous, Aria would sit with him. When he was confused by new experiences, she would demonstrate appropriate behavior. "Aria has become Guardian's therapy person," observed Dr. Sarah Kim, an animal behaviorist who worked with the family. Their bond formed during a survival situation, and now it's helping both of them heal from trauma. Guardian's protective instincts toward Aria remained strong. He slept beside her bed, followed her around the house, and seemed to consider her safety his primary responsibility. The story of Aria's survival and Guardian's protection captured national media attention, inspiring people across the country and highlighting the incredible bond that can form between children and animals. "Guardian represents the best of what animals can be," said Dr. Jennifer Walsh during a television interview about the rescue. "He had every reason to avoid humans, but he chose to protect an innocent child at the risk of his own safety." The story was featured in magazines, documentaries, and children's books that celebrated Guardian's heroism and Aria's resilience. But for the Gonzalez family, the most important outcome was having their daughter home safely with her four-legged protector. 2 years after their mountain adventure, Aria and Guardian remained inseparable. The dog had fully recovered his health and developed into a gentle, loving family pet who maintained special vigilance over his favorite human. Guardian taught Aria about courage, loyalty, and survival, Carmen reflected during an anniversary interview. But more than that, he taught our whole family about the healing power of unconditional love. Aria, now 6 years old, often spoke about her time in the mountains and credited Guardian with keeping her safe until her parents could find her. Their story continued to inspire families and demonstrate the remarkable ways that animals and children can heal each other. "Guardian saved my life," Aria said simply. "Now I save his every day by loving him." "I still think about that cold Colorado night when a 4-year-old girl was lost in 20,000 acres of wilderness and a scarred, abandoned dog chose to become her protector instead of walking away. If Guardian had followed his survival instincts and avoided humans, if he'd put his own safety first after all the pain people had caused him, Aria would have become another tragic statistic of children lost in the wilderness." Guardian's story teaches us something beautiful about forgiveness and the power of choosing love over fear. This dog had every reason to distrust humans, every justification for protecting only himself, but when he found a helpless child, all his pain was transformed into purpose. He didn't just save Aria's life, he taught her about courage, resilience, and the kind of love that asks for nothing in return. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed an animal's protective instincts towards someone they'd never met before? Have you seen animals choose to help despite their own difficult experiences? These moments of unexpected compassion might happen more often than we realize. Share your experiences in the comments below, because at Saved by Tales we believe that our greatest heroes often come from the most unlikely places, carrying scars that make their kindness even more precious. If Guardian's incredible story moved you, if it reminded you that love can triumph over trauma and that protection comes from the most unexpected angels, please share this video with others who need that message of hope. Hit that like button, subscribe to Saved by Tales, and help us continue telling the stories of animals who prove that heroism isn't about being perfect, it's about choosing to save someone else, even when your own world has been broken. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes our greatest guardians are the ones who have been hurt the most, but still choose to heal the world, one act of love at a time.